Good evening, everybody. This is Danny Thompson checking with you live tonight for the BuzzCity post-game show live here on Haps TV. I'm your host, Danny Thompson, checking with you. NBA writer, senior NBA writer for the threepointconversion.com, covering the Charlotte Hornets. And this is now game number 8 of the season. And guess what? Your Charlotte Hornets have took care of business tonight on the road against the Atlanta Hawks, ending a 3-game losing streak by the score of 102-94. So for those who've never tuned into the show before, hey, welcome if it's your first time. If it's not your first time, welcome back. So this is a show that we do dedicated to the Charlotte Hornets on a nightly basis. So if you're talking about other NBA teams, this is not the platform to do it. This is all about the Charlotte Hornets and what you see on tonightly basis. Also, if you are online, if you're on hapstv.com or actually on the Haps app, please download it. Not only myself, but other great journalists will be on there on a regular basis. It's a superly great platform that's able to allow us to be able, as journalists, to download and be able to talk to people on a regular basis. So now that we got all that business out the way, also at the same time, you can download the Haps TV app, as you see in the top right-hand corner. And if you're watching the show live on any of the social media platforms, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, put your comments in the section. I definitely will answer questions throughout the show, and subscribe to me as well as actually like and tag the show and your friends as well too. So let's get into tonight's game. Listen, the Atlanta Hawks came into the game against the Charlotte Hornets tonight in the midst of a country right now going through a complete, I don't even know what you want to call it. It's something that's never happened, at least in most of our lifetimes in American history. What went on in Washington, D.C. The Charlotte Hornets entered this game on a 3-game losing streak, and the team they played tonight is averaging 118 points a game. Charlotte has struggled going into this game in the first quarter, not only scoring, but defending. The Atlanta Hawks lead the NBA in scoring in the first quarter with 33.6 points a game in their first 7 games. But guess what happened tonight? Something changed, and guess what? The Charlotte Hornets figured out how to play defense, and literally for the most part, for about 46 minutes, they led the entire game. It was one of those games where not only did Charlotte play well defensively, they stopped one of the NBA's best scorers. Trae Young only had 7 points. Now, 7 points for a guy averaging almost 29 points a game. Here's even difference. Trae Young has scored 10 or more points in 53 straight games, and tonight only had a grand total of 7. The Hornets came out in the first quarter and punched the Atlanta Hawks right in the mouth, 27-11. Like I said, didn't trail until literally the middle part of the fourth quarter, and we'll get to that in a minute. Like I said, 102-94 was the final, and this will now be called the Gordon Hayward game. Gordon Hayward had been by Hornets fans, either you understood why they signed Gordon Hayward or you're saying this guy is being overpaid. Well, Gordon Hayward tonight showed why he was worth $120 million. When you look at Gordon Hayward's game, it's not really all about the points that he brings. It's the fact that he's averaging before the game tonight around almost 19 points a game and about 5 assists a game. And if you look at the fact that the 5 assists based on turnovers, based on 3-pointers and assists, he's giving you right around 30 points a game between scoring and passing the ball. But tonight, Gordon Hayward came out. Not only was he aggressive, but he was scoring at all 3 levels. And for those who don't know that the 3-level scorer term, he was scoring in the paint, he was scoring from the mid-range, he got to the free throw line, and hit from the 3-point line. So he did everything you asked him to do on the court tonight. With the 44 points tonight, on his game tonight, he hit 4 3-pointers. He got to the line 12 times. He was efficient shooting the basketball. He finished the game 15 of 25 from the floor. Like I said, 4 of 9 from the 3-point line and 10 of 12 from the free throw line. So like I say, he did it everywhere. 25 points in the first half. It was a Gordon Hayward game, and he even said it in post game. I don't think he's only scored 40 points one other time going back to his days in high school, and that was actually in the playoffs with the Celtics. He's been in the league 11 years and has never broke 40 points in the game, not one time. Tonight, his 44 points were pretty much the reason why, in most cases, the Hornets won this game tonight. All right. As you see Precious in the chat, she's puts up the words WC. Hopefully Precious will kind of understand what the words WC means. I know what it means, but maybe she might let you guys know what it is as well too. So listen, but back to Gordon Hayward. It was a dominating beginning and a dominating finish. When the Hornets were struggling to find points after Atlanta took the lead, Gordon Hayward scored 6 consecutive points 7 points in the fourth quarter to make everything better for the Hornets tonight, giving them the lead back. Devontae Graham knocked down a huge three-pointer. Don't mind the 2 of 14 performance from shooting tonight because he's been struggling all season. But that huge three-pointer was one of the things that gave the Hornets the extra buzz they needed to take the victory tonight. So let's start with the game in the first quarter, and we'll go through the entire game. And like I said, if you have comments in the chat, please, I want to hear from Hornets fans everywhere as well, too. Also, donate to the show as well, too. This is all part of what we do here at Haps. All right. And big shout outs to my main man, Peter, up in Seattle from the Haps team. As always, thank you very much. Irvin, thank you for subscribing to the show. And yes, hello from Augusta as well, too. Like I said, all Hornets fans, I want you to share this everywhere you're around to. So let's start in the first quarter. 27-11 was the big part in the first quarter. And really, one of the major things Charlotte did was it was defense, defense, defense. Not only was Charlotte holding Atlanta down defensively, what they did was they packed the paint, and John Collins couldn't do much. Trae Young, we all know, struggled from the floor. But if you watch what P.J. Washington was doing in the first quarter, it wasn't the rebounding. It wasn't the scoring. PJ was blocking shots. Bismack Biyombo had blocked John Collins' slam dunk at the middle of the rim. It was at the team defense that kept Atlanta away from what they do best. Like I said, Atlanta had been scoring almost 34 points a game in the first quarter. And what happened was the Charlotte defense was stifling. Trae Young couldn't get going. And Trae Young, I think, had 2 baskets. I think his second basket came late in the fourth quarter. They switched. And normally what Hornets fans have been seeing all year is the fact of guards have been taking advantage of the Hornets, of Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham. You go back to what Colin Sexton did the first game of the season, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the second game. Don't forget George Hill in his shooting in the Oklahoma City game. It had been struggles with guards that were aggressive. And who's more aggressive in the NBA at the guard position than Trae Young, who's also, I think, leading the NBA in free throw attempts. What Charlotte did was a great defensive effort. You saw P.J. Washington get into the rim. You saw protecting the paint. You saw Bismack Biyombo. P.J. finished the game with 3 block shots. Biz had Biz had one himself, but a lot of altering. He had 2 in the game, but a lot of altering of the shots. And Atlanta just couldn't seem to get it going. At one point, you go into the second quarter, they're down by 24 points in this game. On the offensive end for Charlotte, one of the things that Charlotte did well, even though they didn't shoot the ball very well, was you saw the ball movement. And really with Gordon Hayward going out there and being super aggressive in the first quarter, it made things easier. But what also made things easier was the play of LaMelo Ball. Once again, in the first half, Ball comes in the game and he transitions the game. Now, he's only played 8 games, but there was a moment in the first quarter, I think it was a 2 or 3 possession situation where LaMelo Ball gets the ball, I want to say at the left wing, and normally in a situation like this, he's going to shoot it. But he did a veteran move and pump faked, I think it was DeAndre Hunter out of the air, scrolled around the corner, and then hits a layup at the rim. The next possession, which was an NBA play, because if you watched his eyes, he had Gordon Hayward in one corner and Devontae Graham at normally his sweet spot at the side on his side of the 3-point line, but he took it to the basket. Same situation happens on the next possession, but here's the difference. Ball comes to the middle of the lane. He's looking directly at Devontae Graham, but fires a laser over to Hayward, who I don't know if he really saw the ball coming, but he comes in, fires it. It's a 3-pointer. Hornets have a huge lead at this point. What I'm saying is that when you watch LaMelo Ball and you see his progression game over game, you see the fact of the game is slowing down for him. I had a chance to ask Coach James Borrego after the end of the game about LaMelo Ball and the fact of point guards. When I say the fact of point guards, when you look at point guards when they first come in the NBA, one of the main things with point guards and their struggles have been with, guess what, turnovers. You look at the last 3 games for LaMelo Ball. He's only had 5 turnovers. He had 1 tonight, but only 5 turnovers last 3 games. But he's also had 19 assists. So the turnovers are getting lower and lower, but his assists are getting higher and higher, which means that assist-to-turnover ratio is something that is needed. And you see the activity of the other players. Like James had told us, JB told us at the end of the game tonight that it's fun watching him play because he has to keep his head on the swivel. And what he's also doing is he's allowing LaMelo to play with a little bit more freedom. Precious in the chat saying, normally Hayward couldn't get to the basket. What do you think the change was tonight? I think when it came to Gordon Hayward, it was super aggressiveness. He came out from the very start of the game. And the funny thing with Atlanta is that they have a really good defender on the wing in DeAndre Hunter. I think he's an outstanding young defender. But what Hayward did was, I think the first couple shots went in, and the creativity of ball, the creativity of the fact that when he gets in that mid-range, or right around that 16 to about that 15-foot step back shot that he's perfected in the mid-range, and it starts going in. And then what do most scorers do? They get to the free throw line pressure. So he did everything. So when you get to the basket and you make the first couple shots, knowing you have that step back and you're knowing you're knocking down 3-pointers, it just seems to make the game easier for him. My man Bliss Lucid over on Twitter, he said the coach is in love with Devontae Graham. Listen, it's not about the fact of being in love with Devontae Graham. Okay, listen. But what you saw in the game was, when it came down to it, the big shot in the game when Charlotte needed it came down to Devontae Graham hitting that 3-pointer when Charlotte needed it the most. All right. Really, and when it's about playing the fourth quarter, another question was having Graham play 39 minutes over Melo. It's not the fact of him being clueless. There is still moments in this game that LaMelo Ball is still a rookie. He's still a rookie. And when you have Devontae Graham who can shoot the basketball, you need to spread the floor, especially with Gordon Hayward on the court who can make plays. Listen, Graham is still a solid player. He's still a guy that should be closing games for Charlotte. It's nothing against LaMelo Ball, but LaMelo does certain things, and he's still learning this game. The shot-making ability of Devontae Graham is needed down the stretch. Just the same as Terry Rozier. It doesn't matter if you play 39 minutes and go 2 for 14. I think at the end of the day, it's about the shots that count the most. And the shot that counted the most was that one in the fourth quarter with Graham hitting the shot. Sis on one from Twitter, on YouTube saying BuzzCity's blowing up. It is. Charlotte is having a lot more fun, and you can see the guys getting more engaged with this. You know, for a team that hasn't been together, and even the question was asked to Gordon Hayward in post game, and even Terry Rozier, the fact of normally in the NBA offseason, you have about 2 or 3 months to get to know your new teammates, to get to know, you know, everybody's tendencies and rhythms. They've only literally had 2 weeks to do this. And now they're starting to get used to things. It's a great progression, and it's a wonderful thing to see. And I think over time, the Charlotte's going to get better. The good news is that Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward have played together, so they kind of know each other. Mike Patton in the chat saying, yeah, Gordon had it going tonight. I think, why does he get the facilitator role? No, I think in this situation, Gordon is just going to be Gordon. I think when you look at how Gordon Hayward does his game, he's not a 25-point-a-game scorer. Nights like tonight, he will have. You go back to the Brooklyn game when Rozier and Graham couldn't hit shots, Hayward was the guy that took the game over. Terry didn't have his shot going tonight. He only took, I think it took, was it 4 of 10 tonight from the floor. So he didn't have his usual 25, 26 points to game tonight. But what he did was it allowed Gordon to be much more confident with his shot. And I think at the end of the day, Gordon is still going to be Gordon. And what makes him better is that the fact of when he's going, that mid-range step-back shot that he's perfected, and I say it's perfected because it's a dangerous, dangerous shot. So it's something you have to see. 6-on-1 says LaMelo should start regardless. It's not about the question. LaMelo Ball starting is not really the most important thing. LaMelo is still playing. If you look at the minutes and what he's doing, he played 24 minutes tonight. He's averaging 26 minutes a game on the season. What LaMelo brings to this team off the bench is the energy level that when Charlotte doesn't have it, Charlotte gets with him being in the game. Sometimes it's okay to have a guy who can spark the game. We all know LaMelo Ball is going to be a starter eventually. But the problem is you do not want to send Devontae Graham to the bench at this point if his shot's not going. It's already bad enough. He's probably going to have to be the guy that's going to have to relegate himself to the 6th man. But you want his confidence to be there because you need him. All right. And LaMelo at this point in his career is still getting better. And I'm sorry, 16 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists off the bench is still getting numbers. And at the end of the game, Do you want Rated asked the question is if Melo's the franchise player, wouldn't you want him finishing games? At this point, it's only 8 games. Is he the franchise player at this point during 8 games? He's not. He's not the go-to guy at this point in the season. The go-to guy on the team is the guy that scored 44 points tonight. Okay, Terry Rozier, the guy who's leading the team in scoring at 23 points a game, that's the guy you want with the ball in the hands into the game. It's nothing against LaMelo. It's only 8 games. We don't want to go in there and microwave a guy's career already. Let LaMelo grow. Let LaMelo do what he needs to do, but it's just 8 games in the season. It's not in the point where Charlotte doesn't have the guys who can score the basketball. Scoring from Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham has never really been a problem. It's just been the problem that Devontae's lost confidence in his shots. You got to learn. Sauce Austin on Twitter says you got to let LaMelo be a closer. Once again, he's not here to be the closer. You're not expecting LaMelo Ball to score 25 points a game. That's not what he's here for. It's the same thing. He's a better shooting version of his brother, and there's nothing wrong with that. He is a guy that's going to basically be a triple-double threat on a nightly basis. It's okay to be that. You're not asking him to be a scorer. What you're asking him to do is learn the game, figure out the concepts, so when you get to do things, because there's moments in this game where he lacked focus on defense, because Brandon Graham, third-string point guard for the Atlanta Hawks, Brandon Goodman, excuse me, third-string point guard for the Hawks, because they didn't have Rondo tonight, was giving him buckets in key stretches of the second and third quarter. I feel like 6-on-1 says he feels like the coach stopped evaluating, let chemistry build from jump ball. It's not about it. And you got to think, evaluation is very key in the NBA, especially at this point with the way the NBA is shaped, because you got to look at Charlotte, a team that did not play in the bubble. Okay. They were out of basketball literally for 8 months. They only had a 2-week camp in Charlotte for the guys, and some of those guys weren't even on the roster. There was no LaMelo Ball on the roster. There was no Gordon Hayward on the roster. The young kids were not, the draftees were on the roster either. Okay. So you don't have time to gel. Training camp was literally 10 days. Okay. So it wasn't like this team had much to gel. So at this point, you still are evaluating. You're still figuring out your rotations. You're still figuring out which guys can do it. And really, not everybody is at 100% shape yet, because it's different playing basketball on the side. But when you're playing in games, and at 6, like you said, you played on every level, you know that it's a difference playing pickup ball or playing in non-game situations than playing in game situations. We're only 8 games into the season. And Charlotte, in the bad part with the Hornets situation is they're in a stretch of 11 games in 18 days. Okay, so by the time this stretch is over, when we get past Toronto and the back-to-back down in Tampa at the end of next week, you already had 15 games of the season. So a quarter of the season is pretty much done at this point. And to Ted Hicks' point, big shout out to my man Ted in New York. It's only 10 games. He's only played 8 games, so just give him time. 6-on-1 says Charlotte has nothing to lose. Charlotte does have a lot to lose. The Hornets can make the playoffs here. The Hornets can get in one of the 10 places here. They can get in the top 10. They can force themselves to get into the play-in game. There isn't really much more than that. You look at a team that won 23 games last season, and you're expecting them to be better than what they are. They don't. They have a lot to gain here. And to be honest with you, it's not a bad thing what they're doing with LaMelo. It's just the maturation process. Charlotte didn't need to have him start from day one. They didn't. You already had 2 guards that were doing their job anyway. Devontae Graham would have been a most improved player in most years. Terry Rozier led the team in scoring last year. So you don't have to do anything with those 2 guys. You can sit back and let LaMelo develop, and that's what they're doing. The good news with JB is that when you watch what he's been doing, he's letting LaMelo let the game come to him. He's learning the game. He's also learning concepts at the same time. Don't worry, LaMelo's going to get his minutes. He doesn't need them right now. You don't want to put too much on him, because guess what? There hasn't been enough practice time for him to get used to things. Blitz Lucis said they have too many guards. Something needs to happen ASAP. No, it doesn't. Because if you look at the Hornets rotation right now, you have Graham, you have Rozier, you have Ball. Outside of that, The other guards on the roster that are actually getting playing time, you're looking at the Martin twins, Cody and Caleb, who catch a lot of flack from Hornets fans. Why? I don't know why. Cody Martin is the best on-ball defender on the team. Caleb Martin is a much more consistent scorer than Malik Monk at this point. Fans want to see Malik Monk, and I get it. Malik Monk's a guy that can give you 25 points a game at the drop of a dime. But there's moments where Malik Monk can go completely cold. And Malik still struggles with defense. That's why he's not in the rotation right now. We saw him play the other night. He played 10 minutes. He's going to get himself eventually, but I think what's going to happen is it's going to have to take somebody either unfortunately getting hurt or unfortunately just really falling off a cliff before we get Monk in this rotation. 6-on-1. If you're on Twitter, my Twitter handle is Danny DANNY number 3 Thompson on Twitter. Inbox me on Twitter, and we'll definitely chit chat because I would love to discuss things with fans. The Blitz Lucian saying they need a big trade for Graham or for big trade Rozier or Graham needs to go. Devontae Graham makes $1.6 million. Okay, you're not trading it. You're not going to trade it. It's the same thing the Lakers had with Kyle Kuzma. He is a second-round pick, Graham was, and Kuzma's the end of the first round. His contract number, you will never get anything back in return that's going to be a fair value. Terry Rozier is your best on-ball defender as a starting guard. So why would you trade him? On top of that, he is your best catch-and-shoot player, and nothing plays better to a guy like Gordon Hayward or LaMelo Ball, who have very good playmaking abilities, than a guy who can catch and shoot and knock down shots. So why would you trade Rozier, who can do that? And Graham, what are you going to get for Devontae Graham? His number is too low. It's the same thing I said with Kyle Kuzma. You can't trade it. Somebody on Facebook saying Malik can't guard the chair I'm sitting in, and the chair hasn't moved in the past hour. I'm not saying he's that terrible defensively, but he's really not that good defensively. 6-on-1 says Charlotte has started the last 2 games slow, missing shots. That's been the story of the entire season. Charlotte going into tonight was the second worst team in the NBA in first quarter scoring. It hasn't been the last 2 games. It's been the first 7. Tonight they scored 27. It's not about it's the slow starts are one thing. It's the fact of Charlotte can't have these lull stretches where they go through periods of games where they don't score. We saw it the other night in the second quarter against was Monday night against Philadelphia. They went scoreless in the second half. Tonight in the fourth quarter they couldn't score. All right. They don't need 3 guards. It works. 3 guards do work. It does work. We saw Oklahoma City do it last year. Okay. Oklahoma City did with 3 guards last year, so it works. It's not like Charlotte has enough guys in the front court to not use 3 guards. It's not like Charlotte can go out there and use different rotation guys. Remember, this is the same team that's still using P.J. Washington at the 5. You're still seeing Bismack Biyombo the 5, and even at times this game, Miles Bridges has played the 5. So yes, 3 guards are going to be going to be what Charlotte's going to use because they are playing positionless basketball, and unfortunately, 3 of the guys that are in this rotation are guards, and they're 3 of probably the 5 or 6 best players on this roster. Remember, it's not about eating up Melo's minutes because Melo is doing good enough with the minutes he's having. You do not want to put too much on a kid that's only 19 years old. You can't microwave a process. If you microwave a process, you'll completely mess things up completely. I get rated what you're saying, and I understand that 3 guards is not what it is, but what happens when one of those guards go down? Or a guard like Devontae is struggling, you do need another guard to come in there. You know, Melo, even though he's played professionally in Australia, he played 10 games in Australia. Remember, he had the foot injury, and when he started catching fire in Australia and started finding himself, that's when he hurt his foot, and he was out the rest of the season. I think the question is Rozier or Graham, and that's a good question. 6. Listen, I said this on the 3-point conversion, which is the show I jump on Saturdays, talking birds and the bees. I think we normally do around 10:30. Myself and Mr. Controversial Raphael Haynes on his show, and I've said it on my Monday night show. I think that at some point in time, Devontae Graham is going to end up being the 6th man of this team. It's inevitable. And not because Devontae's a bad basketball player. It's because Devontae Graham is more effective when he has a high usage rate. We saw this last season. We saw the 18 points a game, and that was a beautiful thing. Like the top 5 in the NBA of 3-pointers made last season. But what we also saw was Devontae had the ball in his hands a lot. And for a guy that shot 38% from the floor, it's shown that it's more volume with him. I think eventually, and I've said that I think probably right around the middle of the month, going into the end of the month, we should see LaMelo Ball in the starting lineup. I think by sometime in February, the transition will happen. LaMelo Ball is too talented to keep on the bench, and I agree with anybody else. He just has to get ready for defensive concepts, and that's what it is. He's got to get better at picking up reads, picking up defenses. Listen, when you say he needs time in the NBA, we saw the same things, and it was even worse in Australia. And if you look at the Australian numbers, he was the worst player in the entire Australian league in pick and roll defense. Okay, he's still learning how to do pick and roll concepts. And if you know James Borrego and you know his style, if you don't play defense, you don't see the floor. But he's getting better. So as he's getting better, you're going to start seeing more minutes. And I'll be honest with you, if Devontae Graham is still shooting like this in another week or so, but I'll say this. If Devontae Graham is still shooting like this by the time a team leaves Tampa, then guess what? You're gonna see LaMelo Ball starting by the time we get right to the inauguration part of the year. Ray in the chat saying, if Devontae is playing decent or good, wouldn't Melo get a starting job? It's not about where you're drafted, okay? Because you're the third overall pick doesn't mean anything. If you look at the rookies right now, with the exception of James Wiseman, Anthony Edwards is coming off the bench, okay? Isaac Okoro only started because there was no other small forward available, and Kevin Porter Jr. is still not with the Cavaliers right now, okay? That was the reason why, okay? He's going to get the time. It doesn't matter if you're the third overall pick. It's when you're ready. That's the main concern with a problem with a lot of guys being thrown in too early. You look at Patrick Williams in Chicago, for example, he's learning the role because of the fact that he's coming off the bench, playing behind Otto Porter. Okay, Melo played 10 games in Australia. He didn't play a full season. In the previous years, he played in the JBL. He played in Lithuania. He played at a prep school. He hasn't had any of those moments. He hasn't played in the big time. Just give it some time. 6. I agree. LaMelo's tall. He's a good passer. And listen, you can't. LaMelo Ball is a special player. He is a special player. We all know this. We've seen this. We watched it against tonight. He is special. But the thing is, let him grow into his specialness. Okay, we just can't just throw him out there. Scary Country, are you like a Walmart sports speaker? No, unfortunately, Walmart wish they had a sports speaker like myself. But what you can do is, if you really want to consider where I am, check out the 3pointconversion.com, or you can Google me. Very simple. Check out my website. Check out all the interviews I've done. I've been covering the NBA a lot longer than you think I have. All right. So Devontae Graham being compared to LaMelo Ball is not being compared. They're two different type of players, because Devontae Graham is more of a scoring guard than a point guard. LaMelo Ball is a pure, full-fledged point guard, old school style point guard. We're looking like a Jason Kidd type of player, maybe even better version of his brother. His brother's really good, by the way. He's just kind of in a weird situation out in New Orleans. He's more of a Jason Kidd type of player. Even can score the ball better than Jason Kidd, but he can do everything in a triple-double type of level. So let's not rush it, fans. So listen, we're hitting the 30-minute mark of the show tonight. Like I said, I appreciate everybody stopping through. Like I said, 6-on-1, hit me up on Twitter. We'll definitely talk. So listen, I know tonight's Wednesday's game number 8. Game number 9 will be the New Orleans Pelicans, actually, on Friday night. It's an ESPN game, so it's a 7:30 tip. It's ball versus ball, brother versus brother. The Hornets travel down to New Orleans, and it's going to be a fun game. On top of seeing LaMelo take on Lonzo, you have Zion Williamson, you have Brandon Ingram. The Pelicans are going to run with Stan Van Gundy. It's going to be an up-and-down game because guess what? Charlotte's going to push the tempo all night long. That's going to be a fun one. And then they turn right back around and play Saturday night against the same Atlanta Hawks team. This time it's in BuzzCity. So I appreciate everybody stopping through tonight. Like I said, it's fun. Like I said, we're going to do this every single night for the rest of the NBA season with the Hornets playing tonight. And like I said, I appreciate everybody in the chat. Hey, Blitz, like all the way, I always thank you for stopping through. We'll definitely follow me on Twitter. We can chop it up on the side. And really about the ceilings, it's not about ceilings. It's about what's right now. We know in the future what LaMelo Ball is. LaMelo Ball potentially could be a top 20 player in this league. And he's a potential top 20 player in the league with growth and development. Okay. We're not talking about ceilings. We're talking about literally at this very moment. in this very moment in the fourth quarter, if I need a shot being made, even though Devontae is struggling, I will take Devontae shooting the ball at the end of the game to LaMelo. Nothing, no offense to that. It is what it is. That's just my thoughts on it. All right, guys. I had fun. I appreciate it. Like I said, like, share. And also, if you want to subscribe to me, please donate, subscribe. You saw Mike Patton's he donated. Ted Hicks donated. Once again, like I said, I appreciate everybody stopping through tonight. And like I said, we'll be back on Wednesday night. Like I said, like, share, and comment. Like I said, I do appreciate you. My name is Danny Thompson from the 3-Point Conversion. Check my workout on the YouTube page for the 3-Point Conversion. Check out all the interviews myself, Raphael Haynes, do with the Charlotte Hornets on a daily basis. We'll also have the coverage. I think the Hornets will have practice tomorrow, so we'll have interviews with the coaches and players tomorrow. And like I said, we'll be on Wednesday night. I appreciate you guys. Check me out on Twitter at Danny DANNY number 3 Thompson on Twitter, as well as my personal show, which is Beyond the Buzzer, Monday nights on Facebook Live and Zingo Television, channel 198. So I appreciate everybody stopping through the chat. Once again, much love. Stay safe out there because it's crazy out in these streets. I'm Danny Thompson for the BuzzCity postgame show. Catch you guys later. Subscribe. Peace.